Nice to meet you. Hi to everyone online, maybe one day. So my name is Adriana, and I will talk to you about my journey to a tech industry role. And the main things I want to focus on are the learnings and some of the challenges and how I overcame them over time. A little bit more about who I am. I am currently in the role of a delivery lead in a company called Infinite Lambda. I have some of my colleagues here today. So what we do, we're a consultancy, we're a data and cloud-based consultancy, and we help clients make better, more data-driven decisions through technology. And our goal basically is to better the world through data. I did a lot of things before I got to this role, and I studied a lot of things. Partly because I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. So I have 2 masters, one in human resource management, one in change management and business logistics and logistics management. And I also recently, actually earlier this year, I was a winner of an award, Excellence in Under Pressure, which we'll see today, if that's the case. And this is my first time speaking in such a forum in Bulgaria, because the last 8 years I actually lived in the UK, and I just came back to live in Sofia last month, so this is a new journey for me. And before I continue with my story and my journey, I just want to ask the audience here, I'm pretty sure that all of you at some point in your life were asked what you wanted to do when you grew up. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Do you remember more or less at what age you were when you got asked that the first time? Maybe just shout out, what age were you? Or like show it, 5, 6, 7, 4, 10, okay? So I remember vividly. I was 5 years old, and it was a relative that asked me that question. And I was very, very anxious to answer because the question implied that I had to choose. And I didn't really want to choose because I really didn't know. Usually people ask you this when you're a kid because they think it's funny, and then they think the answers are funny. You may say you want to be a dinosaur, or you may want to be a car salesperson, or whatever you say. And usually you don't, follow through. Usually you don't know it at that age. And then neither did I, of course. The second time I got asked, and I started feeling even more anxious about that question, is when I was 12. Or 13, and I had to choose what sort of profile I have to go to. So if you grew up in Bulgaria, you choose high school, and basically if you choose a math school, you go and do science and technology, or you become a medical worker. If you choose languages, you probably become a translator or a linguist of some sort, or a teacher. And if you choose humanitarian studies, you become a journalist or a lawyer. Even at 12, I intrinsically disagreed with that kind of notion in society, because I didn't want to choose any of those things. I wanted to do all of those things. I was interested in all of it. And that resulted in this journey. So all of the things I studied for that duration of time, I could have become a doctor, actually. And I know because my parents are doctors. And for the duration of the rest, so I started in recruitment and HR. So operational side of the business. I did talent development for people. Then I moved, and this is considered as a very big move, to technology as a business analyst. And then I did Agile Coaching for companies and how they can apply different Agile frameworks when they build software. And then I became a product manager, project manager, and today obviously delivery lead. If you work out the maths, actually, it turns out that every 2 years, I did something else. So I made a shift. Some of those shifts are smaller than others. They're not so rapid, or they're not so extreme. And a lot of people started asking me, and actually myself, I started asking this question, which is, isn't jumping from one career to another so frequently bad for you? And if you had asked me some years ago, I would have probably said absolutely yes. Even when I was in recruitment, I think I had this little bias when I look at CV. Someone's jumped around every 12 or 18 months. I was like, yeah, you can't really trust them. Like, why are they jumping around? And then I found out that actually this is something that's quite the status quo in tech specifically, but I wondered why it's not in other areas. And so I decided to do some research. And I found this Irish author called Charles Candy, and apparently he wrote a book back in '89, which is, by the way, the year I was born, so it's not a new thing. And his book was called The Age of Unreason. In that book, he described, or he predicted rather, that career paths will become portfolios of jobs that people do throughout their lifetime, as opposed to the status quo of having one career for a lifetime. So many of your parents probably have worked in the same organization for 30, 40 years, at least the same job, yes? So did mine. Of course, they're doctors. Then, on the contrary, if you want to be a doctor, you kind of really need to know that's your true calling in order to do that. So yeah, in some careers it's probably important. But I actually currently will probably say he was right. And I don't think that jumping around is so bad for you. In fact, it's probably valuable to a lot of workplaces. In 2007, the New York Times recognized that when it comes to careers, change is the only constant. And then they predicted at the time that people changed their jobs on average of 3 times. And by 2010, that was 7. And by 2015, that was 10. And actually in 2019, the American Bureau for Employment and Statistics estimated an average of 12 to 15 times people change their job throughout their lifetime. That's 15 times. So if you haven't changed your job at least once, you're behind, basically. Just so you know. But what that all told me that actually, throughout those changes, you can actually develop different skills like resilience and adaptability and flexibility, and very importantly, creative problem solving, because you can take things that are solved in one area and apply it to another, and that's how out-of-the-box thinkers come to be. And actually technology, my assumption, why I think technology developed so rapidly in the last few decades essentially is because a lot of people contributed. A lot of people from different backgrounds contributed to that. And that's how solutions got developed there. So if you ask me today, I would say definitely the answer to this question is absolutely not. I went further on and I started investigating generalization versus specialization, because there was this notion in the past or even today, that in order to be successful in something, you have to be an expert. You have to have deep knowledge, you have to invest decades of your time to become a specialist. And that suits some people and some personalities, absolutely. I'm not saying it's not valuable. But people like me, generalists, people that didn't know what they wanted to do with their life, it doesn't really fit. And that's why I really like the quote by David Epstein, by the way, Range is a great book, I recommend it. And in his quote, he says that generalists often find their path late and juggle many things instead of focusing on one. That's totally me. They're also more creative, agile, and are able to see connections their more specialized peers can't see. And I think that's exactly the value that those people can bring in a workplace. And I think probably there has to be a balance between generalists and specialists, just like there has to be a balance between different personalities, extroverts and introverts, and so on and so forth. So that all sounds great based on research, and let's all change our careers tomorrow, at least 15 times throughout our lifetime. I would like to mention a few challenges, though, that I faced along the way. And some of those challenges are specific. Number 2, technical backgrounds is specific to tech. All the others, though, they apply to any career change you would ever want to make. So the first one is obviously imposter syndrome. I had it really bad. I don't think anyone is immune to imposter syndrome. I had this friend and colleague, a guy, and in the West they say white male and privileged in tech. It's as privileged as they go. The guy was so brilliant, and he did a lot of conferences, and he was very smart, but still had imposter syndrome. And he gave me 2 really, really important tips. He told me not to compare myself so much to others, and not to underestimate my achievements, and basically think of other people's achievements more. If you notice my first slide, the last bullet point was that I was an award winner. if I was presenting someone else, I would put that as the first thing I say about them. So, still a way to go there. But then the other thing that he told me, which I really, really liked, was that instead of focusing on your weaknesses, which is something that you probably do when you get feedback or you kind of are aware, it's good to focus on your strengths sometimes, because that's usually the things that come natural to you and usually the things that you're the most passionate about. And they did actually a study, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's about fast readers and slow readers. And they gave they wanted to get people to improve their skill in reading. And so it turns out that the people that were already strong at it, the fast readers, they improved 10 times faster and 10 times better than the other group that were, it was not their weakness, but probably wasn't their passion either. So focusing on strengths was very important for me to actually battle imposter syndrome. And obviously, last but not least, finding mentors and communities, just like this, for example, that will boost your confidence and help you overcome imposter syndrome was important. The no technical background, yes, that is still something that I'm thinking about even today. Remember that 12-year-old Adriana that did not choose the math high school? Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about here. So I always had this fear of appearing incompetent just because, obviously with imposter syndrome that kind of comes hand in hand. And everyone knew more than me, they chose this path, they've been in that thing, and I had to basically bring myself to be very honest with the people and teams I worked with, that of the things that I don't know and the things I know. Luckily, I had great people around me that compensated for my weaknesses, and I compensated for theirs. So that's how it worked out. Furthermore, other challenges, starting from scratch. So if you've ever considered a career change, this is probably your biggest fear. Oh my God, I'm going backwards. Just like me coming from the UK, like that was the same fear there. But oh my God, I'm coming backwards, I'm starting from zero, I know no one, I know nothing about this area. I need to start over and over again. There may be some financial aspects of you starting again and being a junior, which are also important to consider. And you constantly have to prove yourself. Something that others learned over years and decades, you have to do really fast if you're like as ambitious as I am. And so I also had this belief that senior people actually, know everything and should always listen to them. But I actually see the value of junior people because they're the ones that will challenge some decisions, or they're the ones that are going to be bold enough to ask questions. Just because they don't know, and that will make senior people explain and understand it better as well. So I think there needs to be a balance there. Last but not least, I was often, again, I think here is probably in tech actually I looked at the stats, it's quite good with like gender diversity specifically, no other type of diversity, but gender, okay. And in the UK it's not actually, it's worse. And I was almost always the only woman in the room. With the imposter syndrome, I was a career changer, starting from scratch, knowing nothing about, technical topics. And I kind of had to learn to seek role models around me, people I can observe, people who can give me advice. There's this wonderful talk by Brittany Cunningham, I think her name is, a TED Talk, I love TED Talks. She basically explains the three main things that are important when you want to build up your confidence. One of them is permission. So you really need to be having that permission to be in that room, right? The other one is network, so those role models and those people that can support you as a community. And the third one is curiosity that comes from you. So watch the TED Talk, is really good. And then I actually had to learn to almost imitate the confidence that the guys in the room had. And fake it till I made it. I don't know if I made it, but I faked it a lot. In any case, that's how I moved from the left of I don't deserve to be here in the room, to I should trust the judgment of the others who invited me here, to I actually am here because I earned it. And that's it. It is a hard journey, by the way. Yeah, that was my biggest challenge probably. The key learnings then, so I have 5 key learnings for you. The first one is to do with feedback and having that sort of attitude to always wanting to learn more and achieve more and grow. This was very important to me to keep me going. The other one was obviously I had to put a lot of work in building my confidence, even to like speaking in front of people or whatever that may be. Then it was also the adopting of don't be afraid to fail attitude, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that connects to later on. Obviously the technical knowledge, I have to come to the realization that actually there's not that much technical knowledge that I needed, and also that's probably the one that is easier to measure if you're good at or not, and easier to acquire over time. Because I have a lot of smart people around me that could teach me things and answer my stupid questions. But the soft skills were really harder to acquire, but also more valuable and more transferable if you then decide, like me, to change careers in 2 years. Not that I recommend it. Also, I realized that how being a generalist actually can help you shape equally as a successful career path as if you specialize in an expert in something. Moving on to maybe something that may be useful for people. So the 3 steps to a successful career change, they apply to any career change, but in my case it's to tech. So the first step is exactly what I mentioned around adopting that willingness to pivot and the fail fast in fact attitude is what it's called. So in software development we do proof of concepts. We test something small, quick, to see if it works, and then we adjust it. And that's what keeps us agile and flexible. I applied that in my career path, essentially. And I saw failure as a learning opportunity. And in that chain of thoughts, you should avoid things that limit your learning. In essence, avoid things that limit your failing. So number 2, that was the part that came natural to me. I'm a planner, so loved planning. Planning, you have to be planning and proactive about what you're doing with the career change. Again, there's financial aspects you may want to consider, create a timeline, have a Trello board, or however else you want to arrange your life, and be willing to be flexible. So the most rapid career change I did from recruitment or HR to business analysis, I did over the course of 9 or 10 months. And I had a very specific plan for that. So it is not something that will happen overnight, and you should not have that expectation. And then number 3 is about the networking and finding coaches and mentors, people that you can relate to, people that can give you advice, recommendation, people you can talk to when you're unsure, bounce ideas off. Also people that you can observe and shadow how they do things so you can find your own style. It's actually probably the single most important thing if you want to change career is your network. That's how you'd achieve a lot. So I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite quotes that I found out 2 days ago. And now is my favorite quote, specifically for this talk. It is by someone called Marissa Mayer, and why I like her, she is a female CEO, the ex-CEO of Yahoo, amazing, and she said something that really resonates with me. She says that I always did something I was a little not ready to do. I think that's how you grow. When there is the moment of, wow, I'm not really sure I can do this, and you push through those moments, that's when you have a breakthrough. So I encourage all of you to find your breakthrough, essentially. Thank you.